we covered the first proposal, that is the failure of the cripps mission. uh, yeah, we mentioned why different parties wanted different things and why the cripps mission had ultimately failed. You'll have to remember the points, all right? The second point was the worsening of the communal problem. So the Muslim League session at Lahore in 1940 had set its official seal on the idea of Pakistan. It was at this session that the definite demand for the partition of India was made. Jinnah, who was the leader of the Muslim League, proclaimed that Muslims could not expect any justice at the hands of the Congress. This worsened the communal situation because now riots became very popular. And to make matters worse, the government began pampering the Muslim League because they wanted to weaken the Indian movement, right? The third point is that Japan posed a serious threat to India. So the Congress were deeply disturbed by the developments of Southeast Asia because Japan bombers had raided Shanghai and their armies had overrun Philippines and Malaya, which is Malaysia. They also occupied Burma and were marching towards Assam. The war had now come to the very border of India because Japan wanted to control all of Southeast Asia. Our great anxiety was what should be done if India was attacked by Japan. Had Japanese armies attacked, they could quickly occupy India without much opposition. There was nothing that Indians could do to resist it. Because at this point, India was not at all developed, whereas Japan was now a growing nation and it had a lot of military strength there. Because Britain, yeah, that was for their own goals, right? Because the Congress did not think, because Japan, both believed that, Japan would be a useful ally in helping in overthrowing Britain from India. The Congress, on the other hand, thought that, we were a British colony for so long, now we don't want to become a Japanese colony. So this feeling of helplessness, yeah. So this, shall I continue? So this feeling of helplessness irritated many leaders, in particular Jawaharlal Nehru. He advised people to resort to guerrilla warfare in the event of a Japanese invasion. On this, Gandhi had remarked, Jawahar appears to have discarded non-violence together. Because now they were at odds, because Nehru didn't want, he said if the Japanese attack, we have to prepare ourselves to fight. And Gandhi was against this because he believed in non-violence. So Gandhi and other leaders were now convinced that the situation called for complete independence, immediate and unconditional. Only then could the people realize that the defense of the country was their duty and their duty alone. So he said that India's safety and Britain too lies in the orderly and timely British withdrawal from India. All right. Any doubts regarding these three reasons for the Quit India movement? Shall I continue or any doubts? All right. So the next one is the quit. All right. The next one is the Quit India resolution. So the Congress Working Committee met at Varda in July of 1942. It adopted a long resolution that came to be known as the Quit India Resolution. Under this, it demanded that British rule in India must come to an end immediately. The All India Congress Committee met at Mumbai to consider the resolution, and after lengthy discussion, it was passed on 8th of August 1942. The resolution stated that no future promises can guarantee or guarantees can affect the present situation. Any doubts regarding this? All right, all right, cool. So only the glow of freedom can now release that energy and enthusiasm of millions of people, which will immediately transform the nature of the war. If this demand was not considered, the Congress declared its resolve to start a mass struggle on non-violent lines under Gandhi's leadership. Gandhi in his speech said, "We shall do or die. We shall either be free or die in attempt." Gandhi had stated that he did not intend to start mass struggle immediately. He would do only if after having met the viceroy he failed to achieve some honorable agreement. He also made it clear that like other movements this would be a non-violent one. So in the early hours, the next one is the arrest of the leaders of the British backlash. In the early hours of morning of an August 9th, all the top leaders, including Gandhi, Maulana Azad and Nehru were arrested. The government alleged that the destruction of the means of communication formed a part of the Congress program. So what they try to do is they believe that the Congress leadership, if we destroy it, the communication will also stop. It won't happen. As there was no one to provide leadership to the people, violent riots began on a large scale throughout India. The course of the movement. The government had to face a revolt, which was unarmed but most violent in character. Mob violence was particularly directed against the means of communication, such as railways, posts, and telegraphs. Attacks were made on police stations and other government buildings. The position was extremely serious in Bihar and eastern parts of Uttar Pradesh. At that time, it was called as United Province. In Bihar, revolutionaries like Jai Prakash Narayan and Kartik Prasad played an important role in the struggle. Ram Manohar Lohia, Nana Patil, and Aruna Asaf Ali were among the prominent leaders of the underground movement. So what happened is now this movement is going on. These are the main leaders who were, fighting for the struggle over there, and they had to be underground because at this time the British was out looking for them. All right. Hello. Yeah. Did you hear what I said? Yeah. All right. So any doubts you have, or should I continue? Uh, All right. Fine. So in UP, the movement took a serious turn. In the districts of Basti, Balia, and Azamgarh, in in Assam and Bengal, the students gave lead to the masses. The movement was quite intense in Pune, Mumbai, Nasik, and Satara. Students in Odisha also took a leading part in the movement. In South India, the areas most affected were Coimbatore, Chennai, and Madurai. All right, I'll move on to the next one. No, Uttar Pradesh at that time was known as United Province, not Uttar Pradesh. Only after independence, its name was changed to Uttar Pradesh. If I'm not wrong, let me just check it once. Yeah, 1 second. What is it? Today, part of Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand. Sorry, it was known until 1937. So even under British rule, we had Uttar Pradesh. I'm sorry, my mistake. Shall I continue? Hello, are you there? All right, cool. So the next one is the government's repressive measures. So the government replied by repression, which assumed the form of a war against people. According to official figures, more than 60,000 people were arrested, 940 killed, and 1,630 injured during the last 5 months of the year of 1942. These figures are certainly gross underestimates. Nehru comments. Popular estimates place the number of deaths at 25,000, but this probably is an exaggeration. Perhaps 10,000 may be nearer the mark. So around 10,000 people were killed around the last 5 months of 1942 as the government tried to crack down on what is happening. All right. The next one is the reasons of the failure of the movement. The movement, before the Quit India movement, it was short-lived but very intense. No doubt the campaign had failed. The three main reasons for its failure were: first one, Jaiprakash Narayan assigned its failure to the lack of coordination and the lack of a clear-cut program of action. So over here, the people who are protesting and rioting and all, you know, they didn't have a clear-cut program of action, like what are our main goals, what are we supposed to achieve, and they also had a failure that they could not coordinate their actions. So a coordination and a clear-cut program are two main things. They did not have either of them. In Balia, people had seized power, but they did not know what to do next. According to Jaiprakash Narayan, the people should have set up in these areas their own units of revolutionary government and created their own police and militia, which is very similar to what many revolutions have had. In Russia, this was what had happened in 1917. The Bolsheviks had captured government buildings in certain areas, strategic areas, set up their own militia and government there. But this had not happened. And so some sections of society, including many known politicians, still remained loyal to the government. And third one is the government punished resistance very ruthlessly, like it completely tore it apart. So, what were the any doubts regarding this? Hello, did you hear anything I said? Did you hear anything I said? Okay. hmm What was the last thing you heard? Huh. Yeah, yeah. All right. So, shall I continue? Any doubts you have? All right. Yeah, sure, I will. It's very interesting. So, what was the impact and the consequences of the movement in India? We should still remember. 1 second, sorry. What, Jaden? I'll give you a wait. I'm busy. So, what were the impact, significance, and consequences of the movement? It should be remembered that the movement did not end in total failure. The 1942 movement was an important landmark in India's struggle for freedom. It was by far a very serious uprising that saw disturbances practically all across India. Second point, the movement is symbolic of a very new confidence that the people had attained. It warned the British that if that they were not wanted in India, they wanted to throw the British out. In essence, it aroused among people a spirit of total sacrifice. Third point, there was nothing to stop Indians from attaining their freedom. It was just a matter of time. The movement hastened the British decision to quit India. 1 second, bro. I'm sorry. 1 second. What? Can you not? How many times have I told you I'm busy? You cannot hear me talking. Even then, I paused and I told you. One tight slap on me. You can't hear from the door that I'm talking about. One tight slap is at close. Even when you're locked, I say, wait, I'm busy. You're not here. Are you dumb? Hello? Sorry, man. Yeah, my brother is irritating. I'm sorry. So, yeah, basically, the people were now, they wanted nothing short of independence. That was what their aim was. So, to quote Professor Ishwari Prasad, all talk of dominion status was consumed in the fire of revolt. India could have nothing short of independence. Quit India had come to stay. Earlier, there were people who were still thinking, Acha, let us, settle for dominion, we'll see later. But after Quit India, anything regarding that was completely thrown out of the window because the people now had enough. And according to Professor S.N. Sen, the Quit India movement strengthened the Congress Socialist Party because of its magnificent and historic role in the movement. Its leader Jai Prakash Narayan became an almost legendary figure. The party continued its underground movement till 1944 when it came to an end. Alright? So main thing, the Congress Socialist Party was behind this, and its leader Prakash Narayan. So he became a huge legendary figure, and he had a more important role to play during emergency in 1975, which I think we can talk about later because I don't think a book covers it. The fifth and final point: in the history of British rule in India, no such revolt had occurred earlier, which is wrong. I think the 1857 revolt was there, but all right. The youngest of the generation, school children, the youth, college and university students, and an older generation of experienced politics, they all had joined together in the struggle for independence. In Quit India movement, the Indian Revolution had reached its climax. All right. So, any doubts you have now regarding this? I think this chapter is also done. This is the end of the chapter. Next, we'll do chapter 9, right? Yeah. Any doubts? All right. Cool.